So I just woke up and I'm getting a download about the Yellow Brick Road and Dorothy and the ruby slippers and like the chosen ones, a lot of, especially the most, innocent ones, really don't understand what this warfare is even all about. You don't understand why people don't like you and why they're trying to destroy you. You don't even know what it's about because you're very humble. And you're not built, like these people who are evil and want to take, from you. And so as I was, trying to come up with a way to try to explain it, the Dorothy and the ruby slippers and, the Yellow Brick Road, was, keeps coming to mind because it is an analogy of, what they want from you in this warfare is your gifts, your spiritual gifts. Okay. Like the ruby slippers were a gift from Dorothy's, her fairy godmother. And this was, the ruby slippers are indicative of your bloodline, the red bottom shoes, the bloodline. And this is something that cannot be taken away from you. So think about the evil witch. I think a lot about the Wiz, the black version. So her name was Eveline in the Wiz, the black version of the Wizard of Oz. And she kept, no matter how close she got to Dorothy, she couldn't take those shoes off her feet. Like when she would try to touch the shoes, they would burn her. So no matter how bad she wanted those shoes, she could not take those shoes from Dorothy. So I want, my chosen ones to understand that no matter how hard these people work and no matter how many flying monkeys and, how many vices that they use to try to take you off of your path, represented by the Yellow Brick Road. These people don't have the authority or the power to take your gifts. Your gifts is what they want. This is your charisma, your intuition, your connection to the divine, your relationship that you have with that indwelling spirit. Okay, you are the child of a compassionate creator, and they are children of lesser gods. Think about that. So let's go beyond the Emerald City, shall we? So I wanted to continue the story because I was not done. There are some deeper lessons in the Wizard of Oz as well as other movies. I do want to finish this one, and then I'm also going to expound upon some things that I had learned from The Color Purple and some other movies going forward. And I do plan to go live later this week to invite some of the other people. I got a lot of comments on the last video that I did about the Yellow Brick Road. I do want to allow some people to join me on a panel so that we can compare experiences and possibly learn from one another. So look out for that later this week. But to continue, beyond the Emerald City, I do want to shortly, go back and do a little short review of, what we've already talked about as far as this representing the solar plexus chakra, which is the color yellow. And this is the energy center that governs our self-esteem, our self-worth, confidence, and all of the things that basically that Dorothy was trying to obtain as she was actually taking this journey deeper within herself. She met her friends, but these were actually aspects of herself that she had yet to integrate. So as she was meeting them on this journey within her own consciousness, she identified initially with them as her friends. Okay. And so along this path, she was being pursued the entire time by this narcissistic witch who basically sent flying monkeys after her, which is, very indicative of what all of the chosen ones encounter as we walk this path. There's always a narcissist and, a bunch of flying monkeys who are, pursuing us and trying to knock us off of the path, simply because they are pathologically jealous of your calling, of your gifts, and they want to obtain these gifts represented in the movie by the ruby slippers. They want to obtain these gifts by any means necessary. The gifts that they want from you, again, is your charisma, your wisdom, your connection to the divine, your spiritual gifts, and that very personal relationship that you have with the Most High. Okay, and so this is, again, these gifts are represented by the ruby slippers in the movie. And once they got to the Emerald City, they were supposed to meet the great and powerful Oz. Go to part 2. So when they finally got to the Emerald City, they discovered that basically that the great and powerful Oz, okay, was simply a man behind a curtain with a microphone. Okay, and so they were highly disappointed, and they initially felt like, we're not going to get, what we came here to get, and that, he was a fraud, and Dorothy didn't think that she was going to get to go home. Okay, and then the fairy godmother came in as they were all wallowing in self-pity, and reminded them of their journey. Okay, and this is where they all discovered that the qualities that they were trying to get from the great and powerful Oz, that they had been embodying the whole time. Okay, for example, the lion, he thought that he needed courage. He didn't think that he had any courage, maybe because someone told him that he didn't have any. But the entire time that they were being pursued on the journey, he was the one who protected them. When it came down to Dorothy and her friends being in danger, that lion became his natural self, and he became their protector without even realizing it. Okay, the scarecrow felt like he needed a brain. He didn't think that he was smart because someone had told him that he wasn't smart. But as they were, traveling this path, every time they needed to devise a plan to hide from the witch and her flying monkeys, it was the scarecrow who devised that plan. So he actually was smart. Okay, and every time that Dorothy was getting sad about wanting to go home, the Tin Man, who didn't believe that he had a heart, was the one who was singing her songs, who was cheering her up, and who was restoring her hope and her faith that she would be able to go home. He was the one that was comforting her the whole entire time. So as they were sitting there wallowing in self-pity, the fairy godmother, or Glinda the Good Witch, came to remind them that they all had been embodying the qualities that they thought that they didn't have, and that they didn't need the great and powerful Oz. Okay, so this is what we discover once we enter into our own heart centers and we meet the master builder who lives there. We discover that we are meeting with ourselves, and that we didn't need this God or this great and powerful Oz outside of ourselves to provide us with things that only needed to unravel from within ourselves. Go to part 3. So once entering into her own heart center, Dorothy discovered that, all of these aspects of herself that she first, had initially identified with as her friends, were just different aspects of herself that she needed to integrate. Okay, so as they were walking the path, the scarecrow, who didn't think that he had a brain, when it was time to protect Dorothy, the scarecrow was easily able to devise plans to either get away from or hide from the witch, which made, this aspect be pulled to the forefront. Okay, when the lion felt that Dorothy was in danger, the lion was, naturally acted out of that strength and that courage that the lion naturally had within himself. When, Dorothy was feeling sad and she needed to be comforted, the Tin Man was able to comfort her. He was able to be loving to her because he actually did have a heart, but it didn't come to the forefront until Dorothy needed it. So when we think about the fact that these friends were not other people, but they were actually aspects of Dorothy that she actually had to get to know. okay, and actually, get to know by actually needing to use them in order to protect myself, in order to get myself down this path, in order to comfort myself, while I'm feeling alone, which is what a lot of you guys feel on this path. At the end of the day, when they discovered that there was no Oz outside of themselves, she had to accept that these were all aspects that she had within herself. When she was able to accept these different aspects of herself and integrate them, she was able to turn her back on those friends and then speak with Glenda, who taught her how to click the heels together 3 times and say that there's no place like home. She needed to love home, okay, which was again in the heart, okay, in the heart center. And so she wasn't really moving physically, she was moving consciously, okay, through the different levels of her consciousness. So once she integrated these friends, which were aspects of virtues and qualities that she needed to learn about, which we do as we're walking this path, she was able to turn her back. She knew that they were a part of her, that they would always be with her. And when she clicked her heels, she was able to tap back into that bloodline and go right back home. And when she woke up, she was in her bed and all of her family was around her. And she recognized those family as some of the people. The Tin Man was like her uncle, and the different people in her family were these people in her that she had met during her trip. So this was basically a whole full circle journey of self-realization. Part 4. So the moral of the story is basically, Dorothy woke up at home and she recognized, that some of the people around her, like her family, to be, some of the same people that she had encountered on her journey. It was just that she saw them with different eyes now that she had entered into her own heart center, okay? The Emerald City can be likened to the heart center, the heart chakra, or the kingdom of heaven, or the kingdom of God, okay? Because what she discovered was that there was no great and powerful Oz that lived in the Emerald City, but that once she had entered into the Emerald City, she was already home. She only needed to click her heels and love home. She needed to know that there is no place like home. And so basically, once she entered into her own heart center, she realized that God is not outside of you. There's no great and powerful Oz, but that God is inside of you. And it develops and it shows itself as these different aspects, as your strength, as your wisdom, as your power, as your love. Okay. And when she woke up in this different mindset, in this different level of consciousness, which a lot of us are doing, in these past few weeks, as we are going through a lot of consciousness shifts and shifting from the 3D reality to a 5D reality, which is just a shift in consciousness, which will then shift your perception. So when she returned back home, she saw her family, who she had not appreciated, who she felt had not appreciated her. She saw them in a different light because she had been activated in her heart center, and now she was looking at everything with love, okay? God is love. And so when this journey to your own heart center is to discover the builder who lives in your heart center, and this is God, and this is love, and it changes who you are once you integrate this love into your being, and you become this God that you were looking for outside of yourself. It's not outside of yourself. It is within you as a seed that needs to unravel once we have begun to pay attention to it, to water it, and to nurture it. Okay? And so the journey of self-realization, again, is to make the self real by first identifying the spirit as the true identity, as the self, and then in allowing ourselves to fully embody that spirit by allowing spirit to take the wheel, not the great and powerful Oz, and not any spirit outside of yourself, but the indwelling spirit within you, okay, which will take you right back home, which is the kingdom of heaven. And then all of these things will be added unto you. The strength, the wisdom, the power, the love will be added unto you once you enter into your own heart center.